Good evening, good Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to our service this evening. May this Shabbat be a Shabbat of peace for us and the entire Jewish world and the entire world. I know that is a naive hope right now, but we never give up. Let us begin our service with the singing of Yaribon, page 333.
Yaribon olam ve'almaya Adu malka melech machaya melech machaya Ovan geburetek v'timehaya Shabbat kodamai lahachayamaya Yaribon olam ve'almaya Adu malka melech machaya melech machaya.
Let us continue now with the Shabbat candle blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. For those of you who have your books with you, page 11, Dodi Li.
Dodi li va'ani lo haroe b'shoshanim. Dodi li va'ani lo haroe b'shoshanim. Mizorah min hamidbar, mizorah mikoteret moralavona. Dodi li ba'ani lo haroe b'shoshanim. Dodi li ba'ani lo haroe b'shoshanim. Lipavtini akoti chala, lipavtini chala, lipavtini akoti chala, lipavti akoti chala. Dodi li ba'ani lo haroe b'shoshanim. Dodi li va'ani lo haroe b'shoshanim. Uri tzafon uvori teman. Uri tzafon uvori teman. Dodi li va'ani lo haroe b'shoshanim. Dodi li va'ani lo haroe b'shoshanim.
Page 22 from Psalm 92, a song for Shabbat. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm, they thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no wrong. Please turn to page 28 as we rise for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah potach she'arim, ubitbona meshana itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakokavim b'mishmarotehem barakia kertzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים. On page 33, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. We continue with the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Please be seated, and we continue with, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart.
You shall love Adonai their God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your being. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down, when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. Ani Adonai Elohim, I am Adonai
In the middle of page 39, in a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
מי כמוך באלם אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מהותך רע ובנך בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגרו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 42, Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, for your name's sake be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 44, Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Page 46, please rise for the tefillah.
Adonai sepatai tiftachu b'yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imot, U'mevii Gula Livnei V'nehem, L'ma'an Shemo Ve'ahava. Melech Ozer, U'Moshiach, U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah, Rav leHoshia, Morid hatal. Mechakel Chayim bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol berachamim rabim. Somek nofilim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato l'shenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech memid umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'emanata l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol.
Page 52, Takadosh V'Shem HaKadosh Kadoshim B'Chol Yom Yehalaluch HaSela Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated and let's turn to the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. May this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 56, Ritzeh.
Ritzeh, Ritzeh, Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu, Be'amcha Yisrael, U'tefilatam, Be'ahavat tikabel, U'tehil ratzon tamid, U'tehil ratzon tamid, Avodat Yisrael Amecha. El karov lecho korav, El karov lecho korav, Panei elav adecha v'chanenu. Shefok ruchacha aleinu, V'techezena einenu, B'shuvacha leTzion merachamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamachazi shekinato, Let's sing Let's sing
Page 59 in the middle of the page. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us, we mortals that you take note of us? You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shemcha, ulecha na'eh lehodot. Page 60, a prayer for peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim le'olam, ki atahu melech Adon lachol hashalom. בטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. Praise to you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. We continue with a few moments of silent private prayer. Let us turn to page 253, prayers for healing. Misha berach avotenu ve'imotenu, Avraham, Yitzhak, ve'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, ve'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. And we mention in particular Ralph Einstein, Stuart Tauber, Helen Ditton, Stuart Sinai, Bert Silbert. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us all say Amen as we sing together.
Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu, mekor habracha leovotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
And at the bottom of page 253, a prayer of thanksgiving for those who are feeling better, for those who are out of danger, for those who got good test results from their doctor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shegemalanu kol tov. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has bestowed every goodness upon us. May the one who has bestowed goodness upon us continue to bestow every goodness upon us forever. Page 258. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion and prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levatcha v'yirah na'avod. Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry, and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. We continue with Avinu Shebashamayim.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'golo, Baruch et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit tzmichat geulateinu, Hagen, Hagen alecha, Be'evrat, be'evrat chasdecha, Ufros alecha, alecha, Sukkot, Sukkot shlomecha, Ushlach uchavianecha, L'roshecha surecha ve'yotzecha, V'toknem, v'toknem be'etza tova, be'etza tova milfanecha. Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'golo, Baruch et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit tzmichat geulateinu. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Avinu Shebashamayim, deliver them and crown their efforts with triumph. Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'golo. Bless our land with peace, O God, and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen. Amen.
Torah reading this week, the beginning of the book of Numbers, talks about conscription for military purposes. My pacifist friends don't like these readings, but sometimes they're necessary. When we have heard from very well-meaning people, and I'm sincere about that Israel has the right to defend itself, hearing those words causes me an enormous amount of pain that those words have to be said. Because tragically, through too much of our history, we would not have dared defend ourselves or fight back, or the damage, the destruction would have even been worse. I would like to point out a few things, some historical, some contemporary. I think it has to be required reading for everyone. The Hamas Charter, their constitution. You can find it online. No Israel, no Jewish state, no Jews there. These are not the kind of people you negotiate with for some sort of compromise or settlement. It's not part of their plan. I think also we need to revise, if we can, the world's view of Gaza. If Gaza is so restricted that there isn't food and water there and people are starving and it's locked off from the rest of the world, where do all these missiles come from and the anti-tank weapons and everything else? I would also like to point out another, if I can use the word, arsenal. The Temple Mount, where the mosques are in Jerusalem, has become an arsenal. The rocks that are being thrown at Israelis from there, they're not modern weapons, but it's a desecration if they really feel that is a holy place. We are living through difficult times. There is no two ways about it. And I would like to spend a moment or two, I could spend hours on this, talking about, to start with, a Jewish neighborhood and an Arab neighborhood in Jerusalem pre-1948. Sheikh Jarrah. Jews and Arabs lived there. Today, it seems that no longer can Jews and Arabs even get along in those cities in Israel where there was coexistence for decades. But we're turning the clock back. A neighborhood where Jews and Arabs live. With the War of Independence, it was very dangerous for Jews to live there. And the Jewish population was, and it wasn't that large, was basically taken for safety into West Jerusalem. But to get from West Jerusalem, where most of the Jews lived, to Mount Scopus, where the Hadassah Hospital was and the Hebrew University, its original campus, you had to take a trip through Sheikh Jarrah. Do we know our history? And why has this not been emphasized enough? We should have special days of commemoration and mourning. On April the 14th, 1948, before the establishment of the State of Israel, a convoy of doctors and medical aides going to the Hadassah Hospital was ambushed by Arab forces, and everyone was killed, while the British stood by just a few yards away. The Jewish forces, the Haganah, tried to retake Sheikh Jarrah. I reviewed, by rereading Ben Dunkelman's memoirs. He was the commander of the Haganah in that area at that time. They almost succeeded. But the British stood in their way And headquarters at the Jewish agency said, don't engage in a battle with the British. So the British stood in the way and turned the area over to the Iraqi forces. This is the historian in me. This is not some out of the way place that no one has ever heard of before. Maybe no one has. Why do I know these details? I don't know. I just have a great interest in the topic and always have. In Dunkelman's memoirs, we get almost a house by house, building by building account of what actually happened. Now, after the ceasefires, at the end of Israel's War of Independence, Sheikh Jarrah was on the other side, the area that was taken over by Jordan. There were buildings that had previously been owned by Jews. And then in 1967, after Israel took over that area, the owners of those buildings claimed that they owned them. And these are the buildings that everybody's so upset about. However, in between, the Jordanian government with the United Nations decided to let certain Arab Palestinian families live there in exchange for their giving up their refugee status. If you were to hear the way it is phrased right now, Israel is evicting people from these buildings. Well, Israel isn't. The owners of the building are trying to get rid of people for the simple reason they refuse and have been refusing for decades to pay their rent. If I don't pay my rent, I get evicted. If somebody in my building doesn't pay his rent, I'm going to arrange for him to be evicted, no matter what his ethnic origin. But has anyone? No. It's a case before the courts, and to show restraint, Israel postponed even the hearing that was supposed to take place last week. Now, this is the argument that is given back to Jews, to Israelis. If you claim that area, so the Arabs will claim all the areas in West Jerusalem that belonged to them before 48. A very interesting point. But then in return, Jews should respond, and the Jews of Israel, if you claim the territory in West Jerusalem, then we claim the territory in the old city and don't call it a settlement. Now, here's where the student of history in me comes in. In the late 1940s, from the middle to the late 1940s, forget about the end of the Second World War. It didn't end in May of 45. It continued. The Poles were killing the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians were killing the Poles. And how many hundreds of thousands of ethnic Germans were expelled from Czechoslovakia, and Hungarians, and from Poland? There were huge population transfers. And there's still a sense of resentment on the parts of all kinds of people, including Jews who have gone back to Eastern Europe and tried to claim ownership of property. I don't have a solution for this. I don't know who does. But at some point, there has to be a different kind of ceasefire. It's not just a problem of Jews and Arabs in Jerusalem. It's a much larger issue. In other places, it's been toned down. In Jerusalem, it hasn't. And this was something that was waiting to happen. One wrong move, one strike of the match in the wrong place. And the tragedies, and it is tragic, let us not kid ourselves. We thought there was coexistence of Jews and Arabs in so many towns in Israel, and that's over. Synagogues have been set on fire. Don't say you respect the Jewish religion, you're just against Zionism. It's painful to think about. And the other thing that is really painful to think about, and for those of you who are part of our cocktail party, you heard me talk about this for a moment. I'm a very cynical person, let's not get ourselves, but I'm sometimes surprised by my optimism. Turn the clock back 1 week, there were serious negotiations to form a new government in Israel, which would include Arab members of the Knesset as supporters of that government. Would it work? I don't know. But what a breakthrough if that had happened. That's not happening right now. And if anyone wonders why Netanyahu has survived as long as he has, he can give Hamas credit. What difference a day or two makes? There was hope that there would be a new government in Israel before Shavuot, and that's Monday. And that new government, and I'm speaking as a non-Orthodox rabbi, that new government would not have the support for the first time of all the Haredi, the extreme Orthodox political parties. What a breakthrough that would have been.
Okay, move it.
However, we are suffering from a horrible situation. And as some of you heard me say a little while ago, yeah, there'll probably be a ceasefire, and the Egyptians or somebody else will step in, and I and so many other people will sigh a sigh of relief and start to relax for 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 months, and then it'll happen again. Those of us who lived up north and had to deal with being stuck in the snow in our cars know the expression to spin your wheels. The harder you try, you get nowhere. It doesn't do any good. We are spinning our wheels. We are going through the same thing over and over again, and lives are being lost. Unless you think I'm not being fair, there are those of our people, our Jews, who have been pushed into their fanaticism by the fanaticism of others. I noticed something, and I want to share this with you and share what I think is the absurdity of it all. I noticed that somebody had posted this on Facebook, and for the life of me, I don't know who it was, but there was a picture of people dancing in front of the Western Wall in Jerusalem, Jews celebrating and singing something. And I could not figure out what on earth they were saying. I just couldn't figure it out because of the sound, but apparently it was some sort of traditional something or another. And then somebody posted, lo and behold, that it was from the book of Judges 16, verse 28. So what do? I look up the book of Judges 16, verse 28, and we're talking about Shimshon, Samson. V'ikra Shimshon el Adonai, v'yomer Adonai Elohim, zochreni na, v'haskeni na, ach hapam hazeh Elohim, ve'iknak ma nekam achat lishtei enai v'pilishtim. The New Jewish Publication Society, translation, then Samson called unto the Lord, O Lord God, please remember me and give me strength just this once, O God, to take revenge on the Philistines, if only for one of my 2 eyes. Samson had already been blinded. He's about to pull down the temple and kill himself and all the Philistines with him. But he would have killed himself. And we can only hope and pray that whatever enemies we have outside are not enemies that we have inside ourselves, inside the Jewish world. Yes, there is an enormous amount of Jewish anger. What do you want? Somebody wants to wipe your country off the face of the earth and kill all of you. There's been enormous restraint. In any other situation, the army would have just gone in and flattened the place. Fair and balanced? Come on. We're not getting that in the news, but we can hope and pray for peace and hope that there'll be some sort of breakthrough. And I may think I'm being naive when I say that, but there's still an ounce of hope in my mind that someday it won't be as bad as it is now. I am really saddened that I have to talk about these things, but I feel I would have abandoned responsibility to do otherwise. And I hope I have brought some of this down to earth. It's not just something far away where who on earth even knows where it is on the map. These are real people. And we are part of a history that we share with them. May God give us the strength and the courage to know who we are and what we are, to stand up for who we are and what we are, and maybe to make some effort toward peace in this troubled world of ours. Let us turn now to page 283 as we rise for the Adoration.
Let us adore the ever-living God and render praise unto you, who spread out the heavens and established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above, and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else. Va'anaknu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai, lamelech al kol haaretz, bayom ha'hu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemu echad.
Please be seated. A prayer before the Kaddish on page 289. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. We remember the recently departed Joshua Haran, Ronald Lebo, Sophie Pollock, Lee Black, Martin Ross, Al Grossman, Norman Gross, Florence Haar, B. Einstein, Dolores Schuldinger, Judith Nelson Feldman. We remember those whose yard sites occur at this time: Frederick Doppelt, Carol Fader, Morris Friedman, Ruth Gary, Henry Goldie, Dorothy Goldsmith, Ruth Haber, Jerry Hamathit, Harry Horwitz, Louis Kay, Philip Kay, Sidney Pastor, Todd Andrew Pastor, Dorothy Rosenzweig, Lucille Rawson, Sadie Stein, Rose Stern, Dr. Jack Wexler, and we also think of all those who unnecessarily died in the past week, and all those who died in the Har Meron disaster. Let us turn to page 294 as we rise for the Kaddish. Yitgadal Yitkadosh Shemei Rabbah. Ve'alma divrach cherutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayedecho Beit Yisrael. V'agala u'bizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal. Shemei dekucha richu. Le'ela min kober chata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Yamiran ve'alma ve'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen. May the source of peace grant peace unto those who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us. And let us all say, Amen. Please be seated. I have the honor of doing the announcements tonight, and I would like to emphasize a couple of things, obviously, that we are going to be doing in the next couple of days. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, Shabbat morning service. And then on Monday morning, we have the Shavuot service and Yizkor. I can't help but emphasize that Shavuot is a major festival. We don't act as if it is easily forgotten. We have made it into a day that just comes and goes unless we have confirmation, which we don't have in this congregation because we don't have the young people that we would like to bring into our midst. But please keep those dates in mind. Please also keep in mind my class on Tuesday. And on Monday, there is a BIW movie discussion. And if you want to learn something about Bedouin culture in Israel and their marriage customs and so forth, I suggest you look at our e-blast and see the movie. We saw it, found it fascinating, even though I have no background in this area whatsoever, and was completely reliant on the subtitles. So join us at all these wonderful events that we are still trying to do for you and to keep things going for our congregation. We're going to conclude this part of the service with Yismachu Hashamayim.
Yismachu Hashamayim, Yismachu Hashamayim, Yismachu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam elo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam elo. Yismachu hashamayim, Yismachu hashamayim, Yismachu hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz.
May we be blessed with a Shabbat of some peace, of some quiet, of some calm. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. A Shabbat of peace may in fact happen. Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.